Good evening, everybody. Monday morning quarterback, episode 85. Hope you all had a great start to your week, and we're playing catch up. So, obviously, just got back from the Tulsa shootout, and then turned around and went right back to the Chili Bowl, which we got back from late last night. So, I know some of you are still on the road, so I'm not complaining. It's about a 10-hour ride for us, so we got back after dinner time last night and back at it today trying to get customer stuff ready for Florida. So got customers from quarter midgets to wing sprint cars, midgets, and non-wing sprint cars headed to Florida. So Rick, hello. It's good to see you in Tulsa, and got to see a lot of you others as well. Kevin Crum is tuned in. Kevin, did you guys make it home? I know you got a much longer drive than we do. So Chili Bowl was a bit of a disappointment for us. We got 4 second place finishes on prelim nights. Tyler Courtney, Thomas Meserol, Colby Copeland, and Ryan Bernal all got runner-up finishes on their prelim nights on our shocks. All of them had our new style shock package that we've been working on all year, and felt really good about that. Won the majority of the USAC midget races this year and the midget championship with that package. So I felt really good going into Chili Bowl that we were going to have what it took to compete on Saturday night, even though we knew Larson and Bell would be tough company. And just didn't pan out the way we'd hoped. I felt like some of our guys had speed, but at the end of the day, we got to work a little bit harder. We won that race, I believe it was 2015 with BC, and haven't been able to win it since. So we're going to keep digging and refining that package and helping our customers to see what we can do to hopefully bring home another Chili Bowl win sometime in the near future. So, but we're going to shift focus now to outdoor season. We still do have a couple indoor races left, a few quarter midget indoor races, and then the Shamrock in March. But before we go to that, we will go to Daytona and then to Bubba's Raceway in Ocala for the USAC stuff. Typically when we're at Daytona, we'll shoot over a couple nights of Volusia and help the few wing customers we'll have there. So a lot going on. Grateful for all of our customers. We had 5 guys in the A main, which is, we've had more than that in the past. There was one shot company that had more than us. ARS had 8. But we had our share in the feature and just need to work a little harder on our program and helping our customers get the most out of the product. So we are looking forward to the 2020 season, though. I am starting to Kevin, you got home by 3:30. That's awesome. We're starting to lay out our schedule, our travel schedule. We'll be at Columbus Indoors this weekend, and then Daytona, probably Volusia a couple nights, and then Ocala for the sprint car stuff. And then we'll come home and get rocking and rolling. So we're starting to look at some new places we want to go. We're going to hit some ASCS races this year. Haven't got to ASCS races in a year or so. We're going to get to Pennsylvania a couple times. We're probably going to do 2 West Coast trips, one definitely with the trailer and one fly-in. And going to get back to Wisconsin this year, maybe twice. So just trying to mix up our schedule. We're still waiting on a few tracks and series to get their dates out, and then we'll be able to finalize those. So we have a little trackside support page on our website so you can see where we're going to be, and we'll keep that updated. I know we have most of February's travel in there, so once those dates are finalized, we'll get those going. And certainly if there's a race you want to see us at, let us know. I was scrolling through Twitter trying to go to sleep last night, and I believe it was Carson Macedo. He posted something like, what makes a race special? Is it the purse? Is it the car count? A lot of great answers. That kind of bled into people saying what their top 5 races are. So I wanted to share my top 5 races with you guys. What, if we were to win, would mean the most to me, from most prestigious on down, top 5. And then where I would love to hear what your top 5 races are. So this is my list, and it is number 1, the Indy 500. Grew up dreaming about that race. Have been fortunate to build shocks for cars in the Indy 500 for 12 Indy 500 starts. I've done the last 7, I believe, with Dreyer Reinbold. So that's a really special race to me. It takes away a lot every year to go back and do that. I'm not sure if I'll get to do it this year or not. Dreyer's has a bit of an expanded schedule that I could not take part in. It would just take away too much from CSI. So if they run a second car, I may do that. But they're going to do St. Pete, I believe Long Beach. They're going to do like 4 or 5 races, and I just couldn't be away from CSI that much. But the Indy 500 is my number 1. Number 2 is the Knoxville National. So the top 2 on my list, CSI has never won. So that means we've got some work to do. The Indy 500 may or may not happen, right? Like doing one-off shock programs, your chances of winning are very, very slim. However, our Dreyer program, we've had the fastest lap of the race and ran inside the top 5 a couple times the last few years. So, but the Knoxville Nationals is certainly an achievable one. We've had cars in the A main at Knoxville numerous times. We don't do as much 410 wing shocks as I would like. That is kind of my favorite form of racing. That's what I grew up around, was that kind of racing. So we're always working on our wing program and trying to display the capabilities of our products. So we have a few more wing teams that are going to be running our shocks this year, and so we're looking forward to that and probably get back to the Knoxville Nationals. So those 2 ride above the event we just got back from, the Chili Bowl. We have been fortunate enough to win the Chili Bowl, but as far as non-wing racing, that is the top, and so that's a cool one. Then next for me is Tulsa Shootout, and I had a tough time deciding if the Shootout or the BC39, but I think just from the scope and the size of the event, the Shootout still trumps it. If the BC39 sticks around a few more years, I can see it leapfrogging Tulsa, just because any win at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is certainly special. So we've won a bunch of drillers at the Shootout the last few years, and then super cool to see one of our quarter midget kids win the BC39 last year with Zeb Wise, so that was a very special one as well. So would love to hear what your guys' top 5 races are and why even, but those are mine. Scott Brandt, Jackson Motorplex. We may get there this year. I'm not exactly sure, honestly. We are still outlaying all of our schedules, but Jackson might be one. That's a bit of a trek for us, but that might be one. E. Smith, yeah. The Hudson Hornet is going to make his first start of 2020 Saturday, we hope. His best buddy, Cruz Stanfield, and him palled around all week at the Shootout, or at the Chili Bowl. And then Cruz got the flu on Saturday, so we were crossing our fingers that Hudson wouldn't get it. And sure enough, he's sick today. It doesn't seem like the flu. I think it's like the Chili Bowl flu, where you headache and fever and all that. It's not a stomach bug at the moment. So Dave Sharpley was going to pour a seat for him tonight. He's grown a little bit, and we need to do a new seat insert to get him comfortable in the car. And I had to cancel on Dave because Hudson isn't feeling good, but still hoping we can make indoors this weekend. So Sampson, Port City again. We will more than likely hit a Port City race. Probably not for the midgets, but definitely for a micro event. We have a couple other micro events we want to get to this year. I got to go to Sweet Springs 2 years ago, and I'd like to get back there. So Laura, hopefully Cruz is feeling better. Hudson was concerned about him yesterday on our ride home. So Heath, you probably have the Hog Barn hangover, yeah. So the Hog Barn, for those of you who aren't quarter midget people, it is literally the swine barn or the hog barn over in Columbus, Ohio at the State Fairgrounds. For a long time, it was like the place to race quarter midgets in the winter. It's still really popular. They get close to 200 cars. But Kevin, who tunes in, does our Pit Logic app, they raced it for 4 years from the state of Washington. So that's like 10, 15 years ago, I mean, they would get people from all over the country, like pushing 400 entries for a one-day race. So still huge for Midwest people, but not nearly as big as it used to be. But I never get to go to the first few because of Shootout Chili Bowl. So looking forward to getting there this weekend, seeing our customers, helping them, and hopefully getting to race a little bit with Hud Dogs. So does anybody tuned in have any questions? I promise to have a technical topic next week. We are going to film a couple of those before next week, so we'll have a technical topic. Last week didn't have time for that this week, being we were gone all last week, but just thought it'd be cool to recap Chili Bowl. I'm sure most all of you have seen it. Great race between Larson and Bell, which the odds makers definitely would have put it coming down to those two, and the race didn't disappoint. Bell led early, and Larson got him late in the race. So super, super cool. Our X4 shock was in the A main with Tyler Courtney. Didn't show very well. He was pretty good with it in the Race of Champions Tuesday, and I think just got the car a little too tight on Saturday night. But the X4, we got a lot of laps on it, a lot of good feedback. Chance Crum ran it for us, as well as Jake Swanson, and then Kevin Thomas and Jerry Kuhn. So all of them had really good feedback, and we're going to continue to refine that shock through Florida, and then probably have it available for you guys come early summer. Nate, don't say that. My wife won't want Hudson going if he's just getting over 6. So the air's great at the Hog Barn, Maggie, if you're watching. Another thing that we're working on for this year is a Pit Logic exclusive website, and so we hope to have that launched in a little over a month. And so on the Pit Logic website, we're going to have a bunch of short videos on tips and tricks for Pit Logic, as well as a message board where you guys can ask questions, share setups, advice, all that. And then just be a one-stop place to get all the setup codes, tech videos for Pit Logic, again, a message board to interact, and we'll probably have some cool Pit Logic apparel on there as well. So stay tuned for that. That's something I'm excited about. We're working really hard on, is having a complete library of information for our Pit Logic users. So, and if you ever do have Pit Logic questions, feel free to reach out to me or Kevin Crum, and feedback we love to. Don't feel like you're hurting our feelings. We want to hear from you guys. That's how we can make the app better and more user-friendly, is by the information that you guys pass along. So Tim Clark got his shipment, and a bunch of his customers won over the weekend in New Zealand. Tim is our exclusive New Zealand distributor, and he had a bunch of wins over the weekend. I don't even remember them all, but a bunch of super stock wins. And we had a good midget series over there with Tyler Courtney winning the international series. Chris Welch, left rear wing shocks, do I like rubbers or springs? So for a long, long time, I've been a bump rubber guy, either foam in a cup or a progressive kit, because I just felt like you were shooting at a really large target. It was easy to tune in and get what you want. I felt most of the springs that were on the market either were so soft that they didn't really do anything, or they built rates so quick it was hard to get your bump height corrected. But without letting the cat out of the bag, we've been working on developing some spring options. It started as an option for our micro customers, where the progressive kit oftentimes is too tall to do what they want. So we're working on a couple cool little things that are going to be different than anybody has, and so I don't want to necessarily say what that is, but here in the next month or two, you can expect that to be released before the outdoor season really gets going, and that should be really cool for our micro customers, and will also work for our sprint car customers. So as of right now, if unless you're racing at a really, really high level and really trying to refine your setup, a foam rubber and a cup is the easiest. The next would be our progressive kit, and then stay tuned for some new spring stuff coming from us. Kevin, I'm assuming you accept Studley's. We don't want feedback from Studley. Studley never watches Monday Morning Quarterback. I don't even know if he's on Facebook, but he wants a light version. He said Pit Logic, there was too much there. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to note the circumference of his tires. But he did have some great feedback on some other stuff, so we do accept all feedback. We're kidding, Studley. Nate Foster, USAC rules, no bump stops. Will there be different shocks to act the same? We're going to have to refine some shock stuff for places that we continuously used bump stops. I would say probably 40 to 50% of our customers used bump stops at parking lots and such. A lot of our heavy drivers use bump stops, so we're going to have to refine some things. I'm still waiting for some clarification because the rule that they released last week on springs technically made the hypercoil spring illegal, which I don't think they intended for that, but it did. And then today I just saw, not from USAC, but that Swift Springs released their new quarter midget spring, and it is approved by USAC according to them, and it isn't per the rule that made the hypercoil illegal. So basically the hypercoil, the OD is not the same throughout the height of the spring, and neither is the Swift, but Swift said their spring got approved. I'm waiting for clarification from USAC, but I don't think they intended to outlaw the hypercoil spring that 40 or 50% of the people use. So, Bennett, thoughts on the new bump stop rule in USAC? I'll just say exactly how I feel. It'll probably get me in trouble, but this is the honest truth. I don't feel like the person who is writing the rules fully understands quarter midgets and the technology of the bump rubbers. In that conference call, he said the reason to outlaw them was the cost to the competitor, not for the bump kit, but for the tools they were going to need to understand the technology, pull-down rigs and spring smashers and stuff like that. We've been using bump stops for 6 years. I have access to all that stuff. I don't use it. I use it when I developed the bump kit, and then I shared all that information with our customers, and there's no need for the end user to have that. I don't think they fully understand how soft the bump rubbers we're using are. He made the comment that the spring was going to be legal because he could step on the front bumper and push the frame to the ground, and you can't do that with a bump rubber, was his comment. You can. The bump rubber oftentimes is softer than the spring. So I think some of the rules got written not understanding the sport and what we were using. Certainly his knowledge at the high levels of motorsports, he's accurate. The bump rubbers that they use are very, very hard durometers. Like some of them would durometer the same as like a skateboard wheel. And in those instances where you're coil binding and riding on the bump stop, some of that stuff is necessary, but that's certainly not the case in quarter midgets. We didn't ride on the bump stop. We just would engage it at parts of the track. So I really think it's BS, to be honest. A lot of customers used them, and they've been used for a long time. I could see if this technology showed up this summer and they wanted to nip it in the bud before it got out of control, but we've been using bump stops at CSI for 6 years. ARS had that bump spring before that, which they now changed, and that's illegal too. So, you know, if we want to cut costs, we need to do away with titanium. We need to do away with carbon fiber, and let's get serious about it, right? Like my kid races quarter midgets. I would love for it to be less expensive. Let's go spec right side tires, and you can only run the same 2 right side tires for a whole national event. Let's get rid of carbon fiber. Let's do some serious things to cut costs, if that's what we want to do. But it certainly doesn't seem like that's their intent. So. Yeah, Nick, I know he's frustrated about the tire thing, not allowing a lathe in the trailer. I just don't know how you police that, right? Are you going to inspect every person's trailer? What if a guy's using a tire lathe but doesn't have a cutter on it, it's just sanding the tires, and then puts a cutter on it with his door shut? I mean, I don't know. QMA had the rule of no hot boxes in the trailer. Well, like, again, how do you police that? If somebody keeps their trailer door shut, I don't know how you police it. So it's rather unfortunate. I don't think all those extra rules are needed. I'm sure they had good intentions, but it just made things complicated and kind of got people in an uproar for no reason. So Dave Sharpley, will I cheer for your beloved Chiefs in the Super Bowl? Well, I won't cheer like against them, but my dad and my brother are diehard 49er fans, and growing up in Northern California, I loved Joe Montana as a kid and Steve Young, even though I'm a diehard Saints fan. So I'm probably going to hope that the 49ers win, but I don't really have a dog in the fight. So if you were sitting on the couch with me, I wouldn't cheer against your team. That's a pet peeve of mine when people cheer against someone else's team. Like, if it's not your team, don't cheer for them. So that's where I'm at. Rick, yeah, that could definitely be the case. Nate, yeah, so a bump spring and a bump stop, both, you're doing this, trying to do the same thing with both. Whether you're on a sprint car or a quarter midget, you're trying to achieve the same thing. It's just a different way to achieve it. The way the rate builds is different. So yeah, when they first put the rule that you couldn't use a bump rubber, but you could use a bump spring, that was pretty silly because it does the same thing. However, they've changed that, so that is the case. So I know they've also said like no internal bump stops. Again, I guess they're going to buy tools from all the shock manufacturers to take their shocks apart and check that. I don't know. Certainly as a manufacturer, it's not anything I'm going to push the issue with because they have the authority to outlaw our products, and I don't want to get caught putting internal bump stops and things and then have them outlaw our shocks. So we'll toe the line there. It'd be really difficult to make an internal bump stop work in a quarter midget. I'm sure you could with extensive testing, but it's not worthwhile. I hope this rule goes the way of the cockpit adjusters on the USAC sprint car side. They put that rule in, and a year later realized that it didn't really do what they wanted, and they allowed it again. So don't throw your bump stops in the trash. They might be legal next year. That has happened before. So that's my hope for all the inventory I have sitting on the shelf, and I hope that the rule goes that way. So, does anybody else have any questions? We certainly appreciate you all tuning in. Please like and share our videos so your friends can see them. The more people share it, the more it gets out there. I'm going to try, I think I'm about 4 or 5 episodes behind, to get all these uploaded to YouTube. So if you have friends who aren't Facebookers, they can see the whole library of every Monday morning quarterback all the way to episode 1 on our YouTube page and subscribe to that while you're there. And we certainly appreciate you guys. We had a couple people ask today, we do have some leftover shootout and Chili Bowl golden hats. So we have the trucker style and then the fitted. The Richardson fitted hats are really, really nice, high quality. So if you're wanting one of those, we'll have them up on the website, or they might be up on the website now. I'd have to look, and you can get them there. So hope you have a fantastic rest of your week, and we look forward to seeing you guys at the racetrack soon. Take care, guys.